Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voot! Actually, I should probably put that away really quick. I need to explain the Voot before I link it. Hi everyone, how's it going? Blade Runner review, no plans to see it yet. I'm not sure I can do a proper review of it anyways. I mean, I literally can't even talk about it in casual without spoiling the hell out of it, so... all I'm going to say is interesting, and I'm going to leave it at that. Now, what's up, guys? How are things? This is too quiet. Can you even hear the music? I can barely hear the music. So, funny thing, that Voot, that straw poll I'm going to link in a minute, I've actually had that up since, like, Friday. I was just curious, because you could just go and look at my account on straw poll and see polls I have. So I was curious if anybody was watching that straw poll. Now, I've had 0 Voot in the last 3 days, so I'm assuming no one was actually watching it. But, you know, what are you going to do? So before we begin, as ever, I've got a couple of starter things. I'd just like to say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to break my no politics rule. And it's not Halloween. Hang on. Where's my thing? I have a playlist for songs like this. Let's go with... here we go. I'm gonna break the no politics rule. Just picture flames in the background. Ladies and gentlemen, I am okay with Nazi killing. In the face. On November 10th, actually, if you've been paying attention to the website. We here at the Lore Runner are totally okay, excuse me, at the Politics Runner are totally okay with killing Nazis on November 10th, which is when we'll get to that. I'm sorry. I'm not even going to keep going about that. I'm not. Actually, you know what? I am. I'm going to say one thing really quick about that. I am really happy that the developers have flat out not backed down on that. This isn't really newsworthy, but for those of you not aware, they were releasing some adverts about Wolfenstein 2, which is coming out actually later this month. I just won't have time for it until November 10th. Oh, God! But unfortunately, those Nazis have much to fear from me. I don't know. I'm not good at that. Thank you very much. Ooh. Melcinitin is what I'm going to guess there. Or Melkinitin. I'm not sure which. But either way, thank you very much for that stuff. As ever, those are hugely useful, hugely important, and are really helping me out and really helping me push the show. So thank you. Especially with how much streaming I'm doing over the next, like, 3 months. Have you seen my schedule? I have, like, no time. And there's some things that aren't even on the schedule yet, because they're just going to happen when I'm done with the existing schedule, and I don't know when that is. So Wolfenstein 2 is obviously a Wolfenstein game. Now, super controversial statement, but Wolfenstein is about... it's about killing Nazis. And so they were like, hey, we're going to go ahead and advertise this new game that's coming out about killing Nazis. And some people were like, whoa, way to go. Big political message, oh my god. And like, started associating the whole Nazi thing with left or right wing. I don't even remember what. It's all bullcrap. But then what I like about this is Bethesda turned around, or whoever the developers are, it's not actually Bethesda, turned around and was like, yeah, we're okay with killing Nazis. This is cool. We're down with this. And I love that, because you know how rare that is, that a company sticks to their guns? Usually if some big political, controversial thing stirs up, people are like, oh, well, you know, backpedal. We didn't really mean it that way. No, they're like, no. We're killing Nazis. It's cool. It's cool. Hang on. So I'm going to walk up to a Nazi in the game, obviously. Be like, hey, we cool? And he's going to be like, Yeah, we're cool. And then I'm going to shoot him in the face! Actually, I have one more thing to share about this really quick. I talked to my stepdad, who... I tend to bounce ideas off of family members who aren't involved in the gaming industry, just to get a small sample size of what other people think. And I mentioned this to him, and he's played Wolfenstein. The first one. All the way back in the 80s, right? And, so, he was like, okay, so it's a Wolfenstein game, so it's about killing Nazis. And I was like, yes. So why is this a controversy? Anyways, I do have one other thing to share, unrelated to Nazi killing. I know not all of you follow my Twitter, shame on you, but Aquafina, which is a Pepsi company, for those not aware, now has their own brand of seltzer water. They still don't have the Dr. Pepper stuff, which is my Canada Dry, but now they have this stuff. Aquafina brand seltzer water. So, they had 2 flavors. I went ahead and picked up both. Which one should I try first? We have orange grapefruit and mango pineapple. What do you think, guys? What should I do? I see a couple people saying orange, 2 people saying mango, 3 people saying mango, 4 people saying mango. And I'm only okay with killing some dragons. Ash, yeah, but there's none here! The storms keep... I'm seeing a lot of people saying orange now. Alright, we'll try the orange one. So this is... What is this again? This is orange grapefruit. This is it. My palate is as cleansed as it's going to be. My breakfast every morning is actually just a bowl of oats. No sugar, no butter, no nothing. It's literally just oats and water. So, I don't know how much more blank my palate can be to taste this. So, here we go. This isn't that good. It's like the generic store brand stuff. Polar is better than that. I don't even know what that is, Lord of Mordor. I have been poisoned. Take 30 damage. Ugh! I also have one other announcement before we get into actual news stuff. Star Wars Episode 9 tickets go live for sale in most theaters tonight at a roughly 5 p.m. Pacific time and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Public service announcement. This is not a joke, I already have an alarm set on my phone to go ahead and try and pick them up at our preferred theater. Did I say Episode 9? I'm sorry, Episode 8. I even wrote down 8. I don't know where the 9 came from. Episode 9. Or 8. God damn it. What the hell? Episode 8 tickets. Jesus Christ. We'll be going live tonight. 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Where did I get 9 from? Oh, I'll tell you why I was thinking of 9. Because one of the notes on my thing here, and I was glancing at it just now, and you know how fast I read and get stuff blurred, is about Ultimanias. And I know some of you know what I'm talking about there. But we'll get to that later. Because first there's something I want to do. Now, I've tried to figure out some way to do what I actually want to do here. And there isn't. I can't. So I got this in the mail. I've actually already been talking about it on my Discord. You might be like, what the hell is this? In which case, this is a book that came out with the SNES Classic. It's about 300 or so pages. It's actually 318 pages, not counting the back cover and whatnot. And it's awesome. I cannot put into words how awesome this is. I mean that with total sincerity. This is a serious nostalgia bomb, but in addition to that, there's a lot of really great stuff in here. Like, awesome, awesome stuff. Like, behind-the-scenes stuff for the games, what almost came from them, the adverts that were coming out at the time, speedrunning. They actually interviewed speedrunners for these games, for each of these games, by the way, and talked about the techniques and have tutorials for doing speedrunner techniques. And they've got, you know, they talk about where it went and the people involved in making it. They've got maps, and they've got playing tips, and they've got and they actually have the old clip art here. I'll demonstrate very simply what I mean by that. Anybody who's played Mario World should be capable of recognizing this, because this is straight out of the instruction manual, and it's really, really awesome. No, Gary, actually, I have an unlimited data plan. For a reason. Also, I'm on wireless when I'm here, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, it's really awesome. It's actually mind-blowing how far above and beyond they went. Like 318 pages total. Big old sucker. There's a hardback version too, which honestly I wish I'd picked up, because when I bought this, it was just kind of on a whim. This is $17, by the way. So I bought this and I was like, sure, why not? You never know, it might be cool. And I really, really wish I had gotten the hardback version, because I didn't expect this to be as awesome as it is. And of course, they have a whole section on Star Fox 2, as you might imagine, the new game. But I need to take a timestamp really quick. What time is it? 11:40. No, let's just do 12. So I have a bit of an announcement, okay, guys? Yeah, Taiko drugs are still awesome. Please forgive me as I read something here. The first video game console I ever owned was the Super Nintendo. It delivered countless hours of fun entertainment, and even a few brief moments of exasperation. The first game I played on the system was Super Mario World, and I was transfixed. The style, the music, Yoshi, multiple Yoshis with different abilities. This was a masterpiece, and I wondered if I'd ever see anything like it again. But Nintendo surprised me, and Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past became my new obsession, and I don't use that term lightly, and in this case it was completely true. For me, the game almost became a second job. I'd work all day, come home to my young family, help put the kids to bed, and then I'd go visit Hyrule. In fact, visiting Hyrule was something I did with my 6-year-old son, as he would help me play saved files. Just about every day I played for hours, sometimes until the early morning, and after one particularly late night, I made it to the final battle with Ganon, and I tried again and again, but finally saved my file and went to bed. Next morning, I was exhausted at work and didn't get much done, thinking only about that epic final battle waiting for me at home. When I walked in the door that evening, I suddenly realized my downfall wouldn't come at the hands of Ganon, but rather those of my son. After he had returned home from school that day, he'd powered up the SNES, found my save file, and proceeded to play until he beat the game without me. To put it bluntly, the Super Nintendo has always been associated with powerful emotions for me, and to be sure, this was one of them. The SNES launched in the United States in 1991, a year after in Japan. Decades later, so many people have a special affinity for games like, really big list of games, I'm just going to skip through that. If you were gaming in those days, you probably have a favorite of your own to add to the list. What people remember most is the gameplay, but also how these adventures made people feel. The Super Nintendo helped build Nintendo's reputation for surprising people and putting smiles on their faces, which is something we still strive for today. Not only were these games great for their time, but almost all of them hold up still today. Every time we re-release one of these games on the Virtual Console or on some other format, we are overwhelmed by the positive fan response. That love is still there. While nostalgia certainly plays a part, people keep going back for more because of the engrossing experiences that SNES games deliver. Reggie Fils-Aimé, President, CEO, Nintendo. How many of you have fond memories of the Super Nintendo? Anyone? How many of you have fond memories of playing Super Nintendo games regardless of nostalgia? By the way, I just want to say, that's why I like Reggie, right there. He does the hands thing, like everyone else does. But when most other executives get on those stages and do the hands thing, they're corporate suits who are there because they're businessmen. Reggie's a geek. And every now and again, he goes off script and you can see that geek underneath that. And that's why I like Reggie. So, anyways. So this is something I've been wanting to do for the better part of the last 2 years, and I just haven't really had the availability or the time or the energy to do so. In fact, I was actually supposed to start this last year. I ended up watching my wonderful niece for most of last year instead. Not a complaint. It was an awesome year to spend with her, although it did wear me out a bit. But now, yeah, exactly, the opposite of Peter Hines. That's a great deal. So this is something I've been really wanting to do for a long time, in other words. This is something that's been on my mind, and it's something that, to my astonishment, no one else has actually done yet. So, some of you may know that I have this series called the In-Depth Reviews. And this is when I go through a game just piecemeal by piecemeal and do my particular review method. You know, a plus mark for a positive, a negative mark for a negative, and we tally it up and we see how the game rates. So this is something I really like doing and have always wanted to do more. And I've gotten questions periodically over the last year of, you know, when are you going to do another in-depth review? Because I've done FF4 on the DS, I've done FF6, I've done Chrono Trigger, but that's actually kind of it, right? Well, what I want to do is something I'm calling In-Depth Classic. The whole idea is to go ahead and go through the SNES library and do in-depth reviews of SNES games, specifically. And basically do this as kind of a filler thing, whenever, depending on the format I end up deciding on. And that's something that I'm going to need you guys to voot on. So, I mean, anybody who's seen my in-depth series knows what this is, so I don't really feel the need to really explain much more about this. But what I want from you guys is to tell me how you want it. Now, if you've already looked at that straw poll, you'll notice there's 3 options there. And I want you to be as honest as possible about which one you vote for. I will... Lurker, could you link it, please? I don't have it on my copyboard right now. In about 30 seconds, you'll have a link here. But what I want you guys to vote on is how I do this. Because there's 2 real methods of how I could do this. Thank you, Lurker. The first method is going to be how I did the previous 3 in-depth reviews, which is the exact same way I do the premiere runs, like the one we'll be starting in just a couple of days here, where I'm sitting right here on the stream, live, with chat right over there. Actually, it would be over here, but you get the idea, with chat here, and playing through the game and giving the positives and talking with you and chatting and sharing it live. That's the important part, doing a live stream of the in-depth classics. The second option is something that I imagine some of you guys don't actually have an understanding of. If you remember, I did a series for a while there with my great friend Third called Then and Now. And the idea is to basically do that minus Third. In other words, to do it offline, to not do it live. To sit here, I probably wouldn't even have the webcam up, and just record the footage of the game, and then edit that together into one cohesive chunk. Now, obviously, you guys can vote for whatever you want, but I do want to talk out some of the options. Oh, by the way, for those of you watching this video on YouTube, when I upload this pretty much as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to go ahead and put a link to the straw poll down here so you can vote. What I want from you is your honest opinion, but again, let me talk through the options here. So obviously, the live thing is pretty self-apparent, right? If you've ever seen me do any premiere run, or my previous in-depth reviews, or honestly, if you've even seen me do like just regular streams or whatever, you know, like lore runs, you've probably seen the format. I talk about the game, I talk about what I like and what I dislike about it, probably discuss the lore because it's me, I can't play a game without discussing the lore, talk about the gameplay sections and the concepts therein, talk about how it's making me feel, or what I like or what I dislike, and as ever, weighing and not weighing the options and positives while chatting with you guys. Viewer feedback, of course, is always awesome for these things. That's pretty much the benefit of the live format. Now, the detriment of the live format is that it's going to be longer. You know, and any of these is probably going to be, you know, anywhere from 8 to 30 hours per game, right? And so that's going to be 8 to 30 hours up on the archive channel. And I mean, there's going to be a lot of just possibly dead air, or me just talking about off-topic things like I always do. That's the detriments there. The positives, of doing the pre-recorded stuff off camera, would be much shorter. For example, if you've seen my Earthbound Then and Now, I pretty much did a full lore run of Earthbound in that particular game. It was about 4 hours. Now, that may sound like a long time, but anybody who knows my lore runs knows that a 4-hour lore run is really, really short. And that's because I chopped out every section where I didn't have something to share or talk about. And I did talk quite a bit, but that's what I mean by the format. So the benefit is, and so it's going to be shorter and easier for you to digest. It will have no off-topic discussion and no interaction with viewers, but it'll be a lot easier to do. Now, here's the catch, and I didn't want to add this into this, but there is no denying that it will take a huge amount of time to edit. Those then and now sections took a long time to edit through, because I basically have to watch all the footage and chop out every piece manually, you know? So, lots of time additional spent editing. If, hey, Friendoka, if you want to take that into account, into consideration for your vote, that's up to you. I'm not putting that requirement on you, though. If we do the pre-recorded stuff, it will probably go live on the features channel. Probably, I'm not sure yet. I'll have to debate, but when there's holes in the schedule. And I absolutely refuse, because I know how long this could work, to commit to one a day. Or one a week, excuse me. One a day would be insane. I refuse to commit to one a week. That is the ideal. Now, let's talk about scheduling for the stream stuff. So scheduling for the pre-recorded stuff, the off-camera stuff, that will probably be going live about once a week. If we do the stream stuff, that will probably not be streaming once a week. That will be streaming whenever I have time. In other words, the idea here is, let's look at our pre-existing schedule. Like, let's say I was doing this right now. Well, I couldn't start a stream of that right now because I'm in the middle of going through Horizon Zero Dawn. And pretty much immediately after this, I'm going to be going through Shadow of War, I believe, is the very next one. But let's assume for a moment that I have a weekend where there's nothing coming out and I have nothing scheduled, so that would be when I would stream an in-depth classic. Make sense? So the idea is for this to be whenever I have time. I'm saying this wrong, because that's not getting across the intonation I want. This will be the norm for streams. The exception will be when I do not do this. Make sense? So, that's the gist of it. Please, Voot, let me know. Again, I'm going to be leaving that poll up for some time, and we'll see what you guys think. And that's my big announcement. All right. Now, I have a small bit of news. I probably should have mentioned this first, but I really wanted to lead with the SNES Classic thing. Where's my timestamp? Oh, and if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask, as ever. So, for those of you not aware, after a bagrillion years, roughly, they are finally now going to be doing English translations of the Ultimanias over here in the States. This is something that we talked about during the Final Fantasy Lore Run proper remake that we did recently, and it's like, oh my god, why haven't they done this? It was such a mind-boggling thing. They know for a fact, because they have sales figures, that the Final Fantasy is actually really popular over here in the States. Why not do this? Maybe Rebel 2? I don't know. I usually just use a text document for it. I could set up a generic Google Docs that everyone can read and just have that be the active pluses and minuses. Something like that. I'll think about it, Roberto. Anyways, so, excuse me. So, yeah, so it's finally coming out in English, and it's being pushed out by Dark Horse, which means I have at least some, faith that it'll actually be decent. So that's awesome. I don't actually have anything else to say about this, but I did want to announce it. Excuse me. I do have a lot to say about my next topic, though. That was a 1-minute announcement. Yes, it's not all the Ultimanias. I'm sorry, that is worth noting. It's FF1 through 6, which actually didn't have Ultimanias per se, but as Reximus points out, they had the memorial anniversary thing, which is going to be pushed out. And then, by all accounts, although I haven't been able to 100% confirm this, they are going to be releasing more in the future, probably based on how well it sells, which is probably why they haven't 100% confirmed that yet. Anyone play Forza? I don't like Forza. I don't. I'm sorry, I'm just going to be honest about it. I've never liked Forza. I've always been a Gran Turismo person. I've been playing the Gran Turismo since the PS2. But, anybody play Forza? For those of you not aware, Forza is a racing game, or rather, I should say a racing franchise, just like Gran Turismo is a racing franchise. Forza and Gran Turismo are basically the only two competitors, as far as major franchises, in the realistic racing genre. For those of you not aware, there's actually 3 types of racing games, roughly. There's the realistic sim racer, there's the pseudo-arcade racer, and then there's the completely bonkers racer. Mario Kart is a great example of the bonkers one. A lot of the Need for Speed games is an example of the middle one, or like The Crew. And, of course, the Gran Turismos and the Forzas are examples of the realistic sim racers. And all of these are good things, actually. I like all 3 types of these games. But, so, Forza 7... Here's the thing. The Forza series has had microtransactions for some time. This is not actually new. What is new is something subtle and frankly kind of insidious that they're doing with it. So, Forza 7 has microtransactions. Oh my god! You know, big news, right? No, Forza 7 has the usual microtransactions to buy the credits necessary to buy cars and all that fun stuff, right? Here's the thing. Previous Forza games had basically difficulty selections and options where you could say, I want to race here, but I want my assists off, I want, you know, the braking assist off, I want the turning line off, and I want all of this stuff off, basically making the game harder. It's actually a really cool method of difficulty, and most racing games should have this kind of thing. So they turn down all, if you turn down all the options, which turns up all the difficulty, when you win a race, you win more credits afterwards, which is the in-game currency, or, you know, dollars or whatever, to buy cars with. Make sense? So, even though the Forza series has had microtransactions for some time, as I mentioned, more than a few years at this point, it didn't really matter. Like, if you were the kind of person who just wanted to get to X car, sure, whatever. But if you weren't the kind of person who wanted to dump real money on the game, you could just go driving, and then, all right, beat the race, you know, or got second or third, got my money, buy a new car, beat a new race. It was a form of progression. And it was kind of awesome, actually. It's probably the one thing I will give Forza as far as its quality. So Forza 7, the new one, you know, the one that they used to announce a new Porsche instead of a new game during E3, the new one has gotten rid of the bonus credits to that difficulty thing. Now that may sound like a small change, and it is, but that's why I say it's so insidious. Because what it means is now you only get the base level of money for doing races, which is not a lot. So they have, with this one tiny and almost invisible change, unless you know the series, made it so that rather than having to do, say, 3 races to buy a brand new car, you have to do, I'd say, probably closer to 12. Or you can spend real money. And this is screwed up. I'm just going to say this as bluntly as possible. This is wow. And you know what's really messed up about this? This hits to the audience of Forza. People don't play Forza games and Gran Turismo games if they want to just go and have fun racing. I mean, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this properly. These are sim racing games, right? These aren't the arcade stuff, and these aren't the bonker stuff like Mario Kart. These are sim races. Most people, and this is speaking from personal experience as well as looking at marketing data, most people who are playing a racing sim want to push themselves, want to turn off the driving assists, want to turn on the GTS and all that. You know, they want to sit down and actually push themselves, right? That's the whole point. Okay? So most people are used to doing that. Yeah, exactly, Zen Connect. Most people want to go full out. I've even done that. Although only for a few cars. I'm not actually that great at Gran Turismo. I'll be honest about that. But, you know, you get me in my Lotus Elise, 111R, properly kitted out. Yeah, no, I got this. I'm even good at it. Not good in a Veyron. I don't like driving cathedrals. But, you know, but now You've really pushed yourself, and you notice I'm actually doing this. My friend Gary actually had a driving wheel with pedals that we'd used for Gran Turismo. Oh god, I don't remember the numbers. The PS3 one and the PS2 one. But anyways, so you got this, you're doing this. 2,000 credits. Well, now I gotta push myself again. And what have I said over and over and over when it comes to dungeon and combat design in RPGs? Making every fight a big challenge is fine. If you make dozens of fights that are all a big challenge, it gets boring. This is my biggest complaint about Wasteland 2 and Pillars of Eternity, and several other games I could mention. Because at that point, it just becomes a slog, and that's what they've done with this driving. Also, they have de-incentivized people who otherwise would be hesitant about driving, on the edge, right? From doing so, because now there's no benefit to it other than the fun. Now I know fun is a valid benefit. But that's why I said the people who were hesitant about doing that, like, well, I mean, I don't know if I'm really that good, but maybe I want to try to push myself. Oh, but I'm not going to get any more credits for it. And so that's gonna push you back. Now all of a sudden you're de-incentivized. And what about people who just want to enjoy a racing sim? Because there are people in the, and I hate to use this word, but the so-called casual market, right? The people who don't really want to push themselves, who don't really want to try the super races and kitting out the cars and all that, who just enjoy the feel of driving around on these tracks. There are people like that who buy these games, both Forza and Gran Turismo. Those people are further de-incentivized from ever pushing themselves because they weren't inclined to do so for fun to begin with, and now there's no benefit to doing it either. All three categories of the market of Forza players are hit by this change. All of it for the purpose of trying to push, and yes, I'm using drug dealer terms here, to push microtransactions on the players. This is bullcrap. And that's why I call this really insidious. Hey, Hates Disney. I haven't seen you in a while. Because it would be easy to do really, blank artificial walls of paywalls. Everyone would hate that. Or it would be really easy to just be like, and you can only progress if you spend real money, or you can only do so many races per day. All of that stuff is the obvious stuff that most games do, especially phone games, right? No, this is quiet. This is like a little snake in the background that you don't even notice until it's already bit you. That's why I called this insidious earlier. This is messed up. Because someone sat down and put thought and effort into exactly how to strike and to try and push microtransactions onto their audience. Now, I'm going to be blunt, and I've said this many times. Microtransactions in and of themselves are not a negative thing, any more than a shovel is a negative thing. It is how you use it. It is what you do with it. That's why I'm sorry, I'm actually genuinely upset about this. I don't even play Forza games. And I will never play Forza games. I mean, actually, I have played Forza games. But I'm never going to get into them. Not the way I did the Gran Turismos. But this is bullcrap. And as Max Time points out, because I've done some digging into this, some people are defending it. Oh, well, it's not a big deal. Let me mention something else about Forza 7, just to add to everything I've already shared with you. Let's say you really want, I don't know, God, I can't think of a good car all of a sudden. A Miura, okay? You want a really nice Ferrari or whatever, all right? Well, Forza divides cars into tiers. Now, that actually makes sense, and I'm not crapping on that. The idea of doing tiers for cars makes sense because I'm sorry, but you get in a kitted out Honda Civic, it's just not going to compare to the Ferrari, right? And they do that to help organize tournaments and challenges and all sorts of fun stuff like that. Gran Turismo does the same thing. There's tiers and qualities and whatnot of cars. Not a big deal there. Problem, though. The problem here is at the start, you have a driver level, and you can only buy Tier 1 cars down here. So, remember how I mentioned earlier you really want that Miura? Well, a Miura is a Tier 3 car. So you have to get your license up to the point where you can buy Tier 2 cars. And then Tier 3 cars. So it's more of a grind than you're already thinking, because it's not just go race 12 races to buy the Miura. It's go race 12 races to buy one of these cars down here in Tier 1. And then probably another one and another one. That unlocks Tier 2. Now you gotta go start buying Tier 2 cars. There's another 36 races. Alright, now you can get into the Tier 3 stuff. Now you do your final 12 races. This is all made up numbers. To get your Mira. So in addition to the fact that it's more grindy, it's more grindy. This is like multiplicative grindy in order to avoid the microtransactions. Oh, and by the way, in case you're wondering, spending real money doesn't bypass the tier thing. So again, let's use a different perspective. Let's say you're someone who's like, I don't mind spending a few bucks on a game I love. Valid perspective, let's be honest. So you really want this tier 3 car. Let's use the Lotus Elise. I love that car, right? So you can't buy it. Again, you're stuck in tier 1. So you spend real money to buy 3 tier 1 cars, or however many. Again, these are made up numbers, but you spend real money to buy X number of tier 1 cars, to be able to spend real money to buy X amount of tier 2 cars, to be able to spend real money to buy the tier 3 car you actually want. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm lowballing this. Tier 3, a Lotus Elise might be like tier 4. There's a lot more than 3 tiers in Forza. You get up to La Ferrari, for example. Or you get up to, I don't even know what a Veyron would be, for example. That's gonna be up there in like tier 7 or whatever. I do have a related topic rather than just ranting about this. Don't buy that crap. I've actually talked about this many times on my show and to people in real life and just last night. Don't do it. Don't buy it. I know that sounds like such a stupid, simple thing, but here's the deal. I want you to do a thought exercise with me, okay? I want you to imagine that 10 people, of which you are one, goes to the local supermarket, okay? All 10 of you buy pineapple. Alright? Now, all 10 of you buy 1 pineapple every time you go to the grocery store, okay? Now, I want you to imagine that they decide to do something with the pineapple. I'm stretching the analogy a bit here, so let's just say they do something scummy, okay? Like, they make it so you can only buy the pineapple in chunks, or they start charging more for it, or, something that is a unacceptable business practice to you. Now, you still want that pineapple. All 10 of you still want that pineapple. But if one of you stops buying that pineapple, they will notice that. I guarantee you. I have been in on meetings where they discuss this thing. A reduction of merely 10% of sales in a specific thing is the kind of people that there are entire divisions of companies devoted towards paying attention to and doing reports on. Now, in the interests of cynicism, I do have to mention that it's not necessarily true that the money people will listen to those reports, but someone will notice if that one person stops buying pineapple in order to vote with their wallet. Okay? And I'm using this analogy rather specifically, the supermarket, because Tigzar pointed out something. Do you not buy the game or do you not buy the transaction? Don't buy the transaction. Here's the thing. There's a game coming out that I have already bought. It's called Shadow of War, and I am hoping it's a good game. I will not be spending 1 penny on microtransactions. Here's the thing. If you like Forza 7, then buy it and play it and have fun with it. But don't spend 1 goddamn penny on those microtransactions, because on those reports I mentioned, they will notice where that money is coming in. Not in the... So, again, to go back to the supermarket analogy, you may still go to the supermarket, the game. It might still be a good supermarket, other than that stupid pineapple thing. But they will notice that people are going to the supermarket, but not buying the pineapple. You understand the presentation here? I feel like I'm explaining this really stupidly. They will notice if there is less people buying those microtransactions. That is something that will show up on those reports. There are people whose job it is to report on that fact. And as Mandarton points out, if you just stop going to the supermarket, well, now they don't actually know what to do with that data other than to say, we lost a customer. Now, I know this sounds weird, but we lost a customer is not actually very informative. Yes, I know there's those exit transactions you can do with some games or whatever, or I stopped coming because of blah, but when it comes down to the actual reports, when it comes down to the people who make them, whose job it is to report on this stuff and do this essay and present it to people in suits, what they see is customer lost and nothing else. So that's not informative. All they're going to be able to assume from that is people aren't interested in the franchise, or people aren't interested in this kind of game, this genre. That's it. Those are the only two things they're going to pull from that. In general, obviously. I already talked about that, Tigzar, and I'm not going to go into it. I spent a whole Loreweek talking about that exact topic. Summary doesn't bother me. So, and thank you, well, Alex. So yeah, don't buy the pineapple. If the game is bad, don't buy the game. I'm not going to tell you to go buy the game if you don't like the game. But, again, I bought Shadow of War because I have faith that it will be a good game. And I mean that with total sincerity. And I will not be buying any of the DLCs or transactions or whatever because I know someone's going to be paying attention to that report. How do you destroy someone with blood? You know what? Never mind. I don't actually want to know. All right. I have, of course it can, Max Time, and it has. You know what? I'm going to keep talking about this. Anyone want a SNES Classic out there? Or a NES Classic? Be honest. It's okay. I want both. I'm a collector. I collect things. I've got a little Samus amiibo right here. Doesn't do anything. It's just cool. I've never used this in Metroid 2, and I never plan to. It's just this cool-looking thing. I like collecting stuff. No shame in it. I want both. I'm not paying one goddamn penny to scalpers for it. Here's the thing. The only way voting with your wallet works is if you are consistent about it. What the hell is Lord of Mordor? I don't even know what that is. Holy crap. Lord of Mordor is speaking gibberish. What, Gary? Anyways, so yeah, you know. Oh, Song of Fire and Ice. Now I really have no idea what you're talking about. The weather things? Oh yeah, we've actually got some pretty heavy rain as of right now. I wouldn't even be surprised if you could hear it. So, let me put it to you this way. What's happening right now, and Mandarton pointed this out, and this is valid, is they are pushing these microtransactions because they haven't really been selling all that much, right? And that makes sense. But the thing is, if you give in, then they will push it more. It's not like they're going to pull back and be like, oh, okay, you know, this. No, what they're going to see is this worked, and then they're going to push the microtransactions more. In other words, be consistent about voting with your wallet. If they try microtransactions in game X, and we don't buy them, then they try to push microtransactions in game Y, and we still buy the game, but don't buy them, as in buy the DLCs or microtransactions. Then when they get to game Z, they will have, you know, you see the progression, right? You have to be stalwart. I know that sounds weird, but they will try to push them, and eventually it will get to the point where they'll be like, this is no longer working, and some people are probably going to lose their jobs over it because of the man hours that have been burnt on something that is no longer selling. So they will just reset the baseline, reestablish where this is, and yeah, so be consistent with it. Yes, this does work. Yes, this can work. This has been proven in video games, and hell, in industries in general. What Kelvin says is absolutely true. But I want you all to keep something in mind. And I know this sounds really cliche, but it is still true. The whole reason I used that 1 out of 10 analogy is because I feel like people get that better. 10% is all it takes for these people to notice. Probably less. But 10% is all it takes for people to take notice of reduced sales. There will be people being told, figure out why. Why is it that this is down 10%? Because that's a chunk worthy of notice, right? 1 out of 10. That's all it takes. So don't ever fall into that trap of thinking your vote doesn't matter. I know we all say that. I know it's an incredibly cynical statement that many, many people have said in politics, in money, in corporate, whatever. Don't fall into that trap. Because all it takes is 1 out of 10. Your individual vote may not be the swaying vote. But the more people that think, I'm going to do it anyways, the more likely it is that we will get to that 10% mark. Make sense? Don't ever fall into that trap. Don't listen to Gary either. He's being super cynical. So, I've said my piece. If you disagree with me, that is totally cool. I get it. I'm cynical too. I'm cynical and bitter. Trust me. I would like to move on, though. I've talked way too long about this topic. Holy crap. Yes, vote or die. Or I'll shoot you in the eye. If you're a Nazi, I'll only shoot you if you're a Nazi. I'm okay with shooting Nazis, for those of you who missed the intro. Shooting Nazis is awesome, I'm just saying. We're going to be doing it November 10th. Let's talk about Kingdom Hearts. Now, I don't want to get you all excited that I don't have any Kingdom Hearts 3 news, although Nomura says that he's going to be having some announcements soon. Now, what I do want to talk about is something that occurred to me recently, okay? I want to share something with you. So... okay, what Gary says here is totally true. You should all listen to Gary here. So I want you to picture a young Lore, this is a couple days ago, playing Unchained, which is a game he hates. I don't know why I'm speaking in third person. I hate Kingdom Hearts Unchained Cross, whatever. It's a crap game, but I keep playing through it for the story, right? Oh, and I have a message from Lord Dad. Hi, Lord Dad. So I'm like, play. You know what, I'm not going to do this with my actual phone, because now it's swiping over. So let's just use a fake phone here. Empty case. Play. Now, they released new story content. And my first gut reaction was, okay, cool, we'll see more story. And then I saw what it was. And it's the revelation of a new Disney world. Specifically the Sleeping Beauty one. Enchanted Dominion. I'm so sorry, Lamppost. Let me say this again. I'm okay with killing Nazis. Moving on. So, when I saw that it was the Enchanted Dominion world, my knee-jerk gut reaction was, really? God damn it. Alright, whatever. And then I spent the rest of the time going through the missions just... I don't know if you can see my expression, but I was just dull, bored. Nothing interesting happening story-wise, nothing engaging, it's just another recreation of another Disney movie, blah, blah, blah. And that really got me thinking. And I want to wonder... Yes, I'm well aware as the one. I know exactly what I'm talking about. So, it got me thinking. Can I still call myself a Kingdom Hearts fan? This is getting a little bit philosophical, so hear me out. Let me use a slightly different example that I imagine more of you will know about. Anyone play a Sonic game? How would Szechuan sauce have anything to do with anything? No, I haven't heard anything about that. Unless it's the Rick and Morty thing, in which case I actively ignored that. All I know is Rick and Morty Szechuan sauce. So, Sonic games, right? Now, I actually have brought this up on my stream before. If I ask the question, what makes a good Sonic game? I will get like 10 different answers from people. So what defines a Sonic fan? What is the definition of a Sonic fan? What is it that makes you a fan of a Kingdom Hearts game? What was it that makes you a fan of a Final Fantasy game? This came up during the FF lore run we did recently too. What defines a Final Fantasy game? At what point do we have to say this is no longer really a Final Fantasy game? You probably already see where I'm going with this, but allow me to elucidate a little bit. At some point or another, I find myself wondering if I can actually... Why is that a big thing, then? I'm so confused about the Szechuan sauce. I don't even get it. I'm lost on this one. Anyways, but so, you know... I'm trying to... There was actually a specific franchise, and I actually can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I found myself wondering if a game keeps changing what it is over time, and so it gets to the point where they're basically aiming for a completely new market or a completely new fan base, at what point in time can you actually find yourself looking at that and saying, well, this isn't a real Kingdom Hearts game. This isn't a real Sonic game. Why? Because it's aimed for another audience. You kind of see the dynamic here between this. Let me use a more personal analogy. Let's say that... Jesus Christ. Let's say, if Mass Effect, this happened with Mass Effect. Let's say for a second that I make trout-flavored yogurt. Deliberate Earthbound joke. But it's kind of true. I make trout-flavored yogurt. I sit here and I talk in front of a green screen in my suit, or my coat, if you go back to the older stuff, or just whatever I was wearing that time. If I sit here and talk to you for a long period of time, just kind of rambling or reading off my notes or whatever, that is trout-flavored yogurt. There are people who are going to like that, but it's kind of a rare and esoteric taste. It's why I am not big. It's why I don't have the kind of viewership of Jim Sterling or Angry Video Game Nerd or any other one larger than me. There are plenty of people larger than me who appeal to a more broad audience because they sell frozen yogurt as opposed to this one particular brand of yogurt like I do. So if I sit here, and again, it doesn't matter how well I polish it. It doesn't matter how good of trout-flavored yogurt I make. It's always going to be trout-flavored yogurt. Some people are just not going to like that, right? But let's assume for just a moment that I suddenly decide to start shifting over to a new demographic, okay? Let's say I start putting out 1-minute reviews on Wednesdays. But no, hear me out. What if that was the only thing I did? What if I start producing really quick, brief snippets of this is what I think of this is what I think of this, and go for a completely different market? Do you see how calling yourself a fan of Lore Runner at that point would be kind of... I'm sure you've seen this kind of thing in plenty of franchises. Star Wars, which Roximus brought up a moment ago. Star Trek, people brought this up with Star Trek a lot recently with regards to the Discovery. People have brought this up with regards to Mass Effect, Mega Man, all sorts of games, all sorts of stuff. At what point does it become acceptable for them to try and reach into a new market? By the way, I'm not going to do that. This is just a fictional example. It's just one that's really easy to make sense to me. You know, it's just plong. If I just suddenly completely shifted from lore runs and ruminations and all that to honk, you know, is that acceptable? Is that something that I, as a fan, should be upset about? Let me bring it back to Kingdom Hearts for a moment. Now, anybody who knows me knows this. I am a pretty decent fan of Kingdom Hearts. But there's a lot of stuff in... Yeah, the drama. God, I don't even want to think about that, Kelvin. There's a lot of stuff I really love about the Kingdom Hearts series, and have ever since the first game. But pretty much all of that is not the Disney stuff. That's been true since the beginning. So what if Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, and it's mostly Disney stuff, just like 2 was... and just like 1 was, and just like Dream Drop Distance was. You remember that? I like Dream Drop Distance, but there's a bunch of awesome stuff at the beginning. There's a bunch of awesome stuff at the end. There's a load of Disney crap in the middle, which is boring and dumb. And I play Kingdom Hearts 3, which is a primarily Disney game, and I don't really like it that much. And I actually start to get upset, because this is not what I want out of a Kingdom Hearts game. And this is why I say this is kind of a philosophical question, because at this point, the question has to come up, do I have the right to be upset about this? Is this something that it is valid for me to say, I was a fan of this, or I am a fan of this, therefore blah blah blah, or this isn't my Kingdom Hearts? I don't have any answers here. It's just something that really stuck with me when I was playing through Unchained just a few days ago, going through the story, and it's like, I know plenty of people like the Disney stuff. I like some of the Disney stuff. Anybody who watched my Kingdom Hearts lore run knows there's actually some of the Disney stuff I think was really well done. And then there's the Pirates of the Caribbean section of Kingdom Hearts 2. Of course I have the right to an opinion, but do I have the right to be upset? Do I have the right to rant about it? Do I have the right to go post long posts on Reddit about it? It's an interesting question. And I don't know, this is just, again, this is just like an idle thought that kind of kept percolating in my mind. Because one of the things I do all the time, as anybody who knows me will know, is a constant series of self-examinations. You know, do I have the right to feel this way? Do I have the right to think this way? And I have no idea. It's listed as Ascension for me, Zoan. Yeah, this debate could absolutely apply to Final Fantasy games. This didn't happen, but it would be a valid perspective for people who played FF4 to look at that and be like, this isn't my FF. Because it wasn't. FF4 was a completely new shift in a new direction for the Final Fantasy series. In many, many ways. So was FF7, actually. Although, really, the next big shift was probably 12, if we're being honest with ourselves. Or Tactics, if you count that. I will also say, by the way, since people are bringing it up, I think the Toy Story stuff looks amazing in 3, so... It's not like I want the Disney stuff removed completely, it's that I either want it done well or toned down. Again, I point to Dream Drop Distance as my example here. Because Dream Drop Distance was like 80% Disney stuff that had nothing to do with anything, and then 20% awesome story, with the little snippets here and there in between, you know? Right? If you're gonna do Disney stuff well. By the way, my favorite Kingdom Hearts game is probably Birth by Sleep. Overall. I love a lot of aspects of Birth by Sleep. Even though it has many flaws. In fact, Birth by Sleep was specifically the game where the no music thing really started to bother me. And yeah, actually, to say in favor of the Kingdom Hearts Disney stuff, Kingdom Hearts 2, when you go through each of the worlds the first time, is boring and stupid and dumb, in my opinion, because you're just rehashing the movies in a stupid play format, right? However, when you go through the worlds the second time, you're not rehashing the movies. You're going back to the world of the movies and doing stuff that's story relevant. Again, I use Pirates of the Caribbean as an excellent example of that. Because the first time you go, it's, let's do a really, really dumb version of Curse of the Black Pearl. And the second time you go, it's, oh crap, the curse is back and we need to deal with this, and Luxord's here, and oh jeez, okay, we got it. We dealt with it, we're good. You know? Complete difference there between those two sections. Again, watch my Kingdom Hearts lore run if you doubt me on this. We do not, Preacher. We do not. Anyways, I don't have anything else to say about this. It's just a topic that's been kind of swirling my mind there. Please do make sure you voot. I do want everyone to voot on this, because Even if you are not interested, that's a valid vote, because I put a not interested option in there. So please, 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 please vote. That's all I got. I'm done forever. No, I'm going to chop off the local recording.